For all you folks out there that don't have Tamarinne, this is the floor for you. What's going on, guys? This is Arkaden, and today we're going to talk about floor 114. This floor is actually pretty cool. They did a pretty good job of adding like legitimate mechanics that you have to pay a good amount of attention to. So even though this fight might seem hard at first, we're going to break it down and make it as easy as possible moving forward. Let's take a look at the team. So first of all, when we talk about this particular fight, there is a huge disparity for all non-Earth units. So essentially anything that's not a green unit is going to have a pretty hard time not getting too many debuffs on them, because at a certain point, like once you kill the like blue slime, it'll actually put some permanent poisons on you, and then you're having to heal even more completely unnecessarily, where if you just go with green units, you're in the clear. So first up on this team, we do have Destina. Destina, everything about what we did with her makes a ton of sense. Number one, she's on counter set, so anytime she's getting hit, she has a chance to actually heal with that S1, giving you a little bit more healing for your team. Number two, you'll notice that we also have Stella Harpa. Stella Harpa makes it so that anytime she's getting hit, there is a chance that we actually just dispel off some of those poisons. That's huge. There's so many poisons in this fight that being able to get rid of as many as you possibly can is a huge, huge deal. Also on her S2, she has a heal and a boost, which we do use to our advantage multiple times. And then again on that S3 that she has here too, big heal for the whole team, as well as even more dispel to be able to get rid of more of those poisons. Destina, all in all, huge pick and pickup for this particular fight. And if you have no Mola in her, I don't know if that's going to be quite as good. I don't have a ton, as she's definitely not plus 15. So just kind of feel that one out as you need to. But better gear can take you a long, long way. Next up on the team is going to be Green Iseria. Again, green unit, so you don't have any of that problem with the poison. I did make her a little bit probably too fast. I think if you slow her down a little bit, it's okay, as well as actually probably a benefit, because then you're not going to have to hit as many times with her. But the main reason that you want her to be one of the fastest units on your team is that A, she has the defense breaks on both the S3 and the S1, which is huge. So defense breaks are going to make you finish this fight a lot faster. Also, you'll note that we have Song of Stars, so she's going to have a hit debuff, which is really, really nice. And then the other main reason why she's super important is having that ability to cycle turns off of skills with the S2. And then her being the fastest unit, so she'll have that up more often, is really useful when you may not have to use Destina for like a couple turns, but then out of nowhere you have to use a couple of her skills like almost 2 times in a row. This is where Iseria comes like completely clutch. So just the ability to be able to be utility for this is why she has high effectiveness, decent speed, and as much bulk as you can get on her, because there is a good amount of damage in this particular fight. Next up, let's talk about our damage dealer. So for this particular team, we did go with Landy. Again, Earth unit, no surprise. But we did a couple of different things that I think you could change up if you wanted to, but I think this made it a lot cleaner and a lot better for just the damage output to be able to deal with, to be fair. So basically what we're looking at here is we went with the rage set to make sure that A, when Iseria is dropping down all those hit debuffs as well as defense breaks, that we are doing huge damage as much as we possibly can. That said, we didn't put it on anything like Symbol of Unity, because I don't think you need any more damage than that for how fast we're getting through. You're much better off having extra healing. So we also ended up using the Bloodstone here as the artifact, just to make sure you're getting a little bit of extra. Note again, I'm using that same rage set that I usually do, so our crit chance isn't even 100%. Crit damage is just decent, attack is just decent, and honestly, I am so squishy in this particular like pieces. I'm gonna be honest, like I just look really squishy, and you'll see that almost kill me at least once, if not a few times in this. So I think having a little bit more bulk is actually probably better for you in this fight on all units, really. But you'll note that other than Destina, the rest of my characters are a little bit squishier than they should be. So more bulk, less damage is okay, and having this kind of extra healing will make it so that this damage dealer is actually just going to run this thing down. So final unit is going to be Roana, and not to contradict myself, because I said there wasn't a lot of health on all these units, Roana is also very thick, and you should do that with all the units. There's a lot of damage that comes out in this fight, which is why we're now using 2 healers, and we also have a Bloodstone on Landy. So keep that in mind. Thickness will go a long ways in this particular fight. Roana is a great secondary healer for this particular one for multiple reasons. Number one, Again, green unit, so she's not going to have all the debuffs. Number 2, you'll note that we don't have counter set on her. We went with a speed set, so she's not necessarily super fast. She's just more super bulky, but because we did that, we can use the Wondrous Potion Vial and put her in the back, and every time it is her turn, she's still going to cycle off a lot of those debuffs just from that. Her S1 is going to basically give you some more shielding, which is nice. Her S3, though the revive kind of ability slash buff you get on yourself is going to get stripped a lot, so it doesn't really matter. The heal's still really good, and this being the most important one for Roana, the S2. In the last phase, there are a lot of dual attack slash counter attack mechanics that exist, so the amount of just pure healing you're getting out of Roana is phenomenal, making her by far one of the best things you could possibly have to go along with this particular team of all green units. So now we've taken a look at the entire group that we're taking here. Let me try and see if I can't get a good enough description of kind of like what you're looking at to make all of this not just make sense, but so that you can get through it in just a couple tries or maybe even your first try. So jumping into the first phase of the fight, you'll notice that there's just one King Snow Slime. This is honestly kind of like seems like it's going to be an easy fight until you realize that it splits into 3 after you kill it once. Here's the big reason why you ended up wanting to use all green units. The passive on the King Snow Slime inflicts 3 poison undispellable effects on non-earth element targets for 5 turns and summons 3 Snow Slime before dying. So it was going to do that anyways, but as long as you have all green units in your team, you'll never actually get those undispellable effects. Well, 5 turns on an undispellable, and then you add that to the fact that the Snow Slime can do an S3 where it attacks poison targets first, so obviously focuses them, as well as detonates all those poison effects that have 5 turns. So the higher the turn, the more the damage is on the detonate. It just becomes so unusable to use anything but green units. So keep that in mind when you're building this team. That's why we went with what we did. You'll also note that some of the other things that happen here is upon death, it grants itself an extra turn before activating the poison fragment, as well as Mucus at the start of the battle makes all enemies unable to be buffed. So thankfully with this particular team, we don't really have a lot of immunities, but obviously I think a lot of people would try to build immunity on this and actually just negate the entire mechanic of poison, and that's why they put this in here. So there's no way to buff at the beginning, so you have to eat these poisons, so you have to have ways to get rid of it. Here's how you beat this. Basically what you're going to spend your time doing with each individual character is you're going to have Destina up front, hopefully tanking most of the damage and hopefully getting some counterattacks for extra heals. Also that Stella Harpa you're hoping procs multiple times and it gets rid of a lot of those poisons naturally. You're going to be with Roana in the back, just again using her heals, using her S1 every once in a while for some shields, although the shields are completely useless in this one, so mostly just for heals on this with Roana, and you're basically cycling as much as possible to make sure that you have that Wondrous Potion Vial getting rid of some of those poisons. With your Iseria is there mostly to lay down debuffs and cycle as fast as possible to be able to continue to refresh Destina. I don't think I refreshed Roana even once, and I don't think I'd bother for phase 1 anyways. Just use it on Destina, and that way Destina can get like some single big heals or the 3-man big heal and get rid of a lot of those big debuffs before phases happen. When the first King Snow Slime dies and that whole swap over happens where it turns into 3, one of the things that you'll note is that when you hit the King Snow Slime, it actually boosts them forward. Same when you have all 3 of them there. So you won't want to use Landy's S3 in the second part of this phase 1. You'll want to probably use individual attacks just so that you're not pushing the enemies forward. I did a couple times use the S3 because I noticed that both of them were going to, or all 3 of them were going to go before my team did. So I thought, well, may as well put down as much damage as I can. I think that's fine, and I would consider doing that too. Just make sure you're watching the CR bar to know like when you can and can't do that. All in all, very simple first phase. You're getting rid of as many debuffs as you can. You're single target focusing down 1 at a time once they split into 3. Doesn't matter what you do first, but single target them down and kind of work your way into phase 2 kind of slowly. Just take your time and make sure that you're like nice and topped off before you move into phase 2. So now that we've entered phase 2, there's a lot of things to think about in this particular fight. So let's just kind of break it down, and I'll try to clarify and sort of color code things so that you have an idea of kind of what you're looking at. So Sage Baal Sezan will appear when phase 2 starts, and he will come with 3 different adds. Those 3 different adds are going to be called a thermal powered energia, which for what we're going to call that red, water powered energia, which we're going to call blue, and wind powered energia, which we're going to call green. So each one of those particular things takes about one hit, although you'll note that one time I actually hit it, one of the energias that needs to be destroyed. How hard you hit. Now, as they're supposed to take one hit, and then they will change out and give you a buff, there's demon form, ruin, and terminate. Depending on kind of what Sage Baal does. Decrease current health of all enemies. You'll note that Sage Baal has kind of a little demon mode icon as one that you want to hit, and it's the one that grants you a barrier. So if it's demon mode, at first when he's about to S3, well, it looks like one of them's really worry about it until he's going to S3, and one of them has once he's about to S3, like a zigzag line, you want to make sure you take a last hit mouth on the thermal powered energia, aka red. So demon equals hit red when S3 is up, grants you a barrier for 1 turn and inflicts unable to be buffed. Well, you don't really care about like buffs right off the bat anyways, so granting that barrier will help you to survive that 80% that's coming down. Now, if the face is ruin, or the one that actually has the little squiggly lines, that one will stun, an undispellable stun, on all enemies for 2 turns. So you want to attach the blue or water powered energia to that one, because that grants immunity and inflicts unhealable on everybody. So if you have immunity, obviously that's going to make it so that you cannot be stunned for that particular turn. So blue for when he's in ruin phase, and then finally terminate phase, which decreases the health of the target by 100%. Additional effects ignore effect resistance. So no matter what, whoever he targets with this when he's in terminate mode will die, which means that you need to hit the wind powered energia or green to grant a revive for 1 turn and inflict decreased defense on your team. That's the basic gist of the fight, but you'll note that each positive that's going to stop Sage Baal from killing your team also has a negative. So the most dangerous of these for your particular team is when you have the green buff, or you just had to use the green buff on the terminate phase. It will actually help you to survive the hit because you'll revive back up, but you'll have decreased defense. That decreased defense almost kills me like multiple times in this. It's actually, weirdly enough, as soon as you see what the next phase is, because it will show what the next whether it's demon, ruin, or terminate is, you want to just change and recognize, like, okay, that's the ad I need to save for when he's going to S3, but can I hit another ad to maybe make this a little easier on myself? Typically, hitting the red or the blue, both of them are a little bit more survivable than having the green on you. So after you've survived the hit on green, you may consider swapping to either blue if it's the red one next, or red if it's the blue one next. That can sort of mitigate a lot of that problematicness there. But again, remember that each one of those has its own unfortunate part to it. So if you go with blue, make sure that you're healed up all the way, because you will then have unhealable on you, and you want to be able to survive at least the 2 turns that Sage Baal is there before he S3s. All in all, this entire fight is extremely easy if you're paying attention to what debuff needs to go on next and where is Sage Baal on the CR meter. As long as you're hitting it right before he takes his turns and you've got kind of some survivability there, you'll be fine. This phase is also the phase where Roana starts popping off, because the amount of just general like secondary attacks and or dual attacks that start coming out from Sage Baal, you start finding that he actually is doing so much healing for you through Roana. So that's actually really useful. And then of course, whatever extra healing you need, you can still use, sort of like you did in phase 1 with Iseria sort of cycling the Destina, and or using Destina to kind of cycle forward a little bit more damage with the Landy. So that's pretty much it. Pay very close attention to how he's gonna hit. Try to make sure that you're not in the green phase too often or too long, because that decreased defense does become very, very problematic for survivability. And then just kind of run the fight through. Make sure you're getting as many debuffs off as you can, and debuff the Sage Baal the whole time, because you're going to be focusing him and just do damage. The final thing to think about is that if you do use AoE, like for example with your Landy, if you want to use the S3 because you actually have a phase where you can buff speed buff to get more attacks in there, that's totally fine. It won't kill all 3 of the ads. In fact, they take almost no damage because they're almost immune to AoE. So you're pretty much good there. When you do want to kill the one that you want to kill, you'll just single target it. That's it, boys. That's the fight. Good luck. I believe in you. That's it, guys. I don't know how much you liked this floor. I actually thought it was pretty fun. It's a little bit different. You get to pay attention a little bit harder, making it sort of like actual PvE content. It's what you would kind of hope out of a game like this when it comes to PvE. And so hopefully you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. If you like this content, guys, make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe. We obviously love to have you guys be a part of what we do here at Level Up Together because we're truly all about community all the time. So hope to see you guys again in another video soon. We should have 115 out next week. So see you guys then. Peace.